All right, welcome back to part 4. Still dealing with chapter 3, of course, the cost accounting or cost calculation. And this time we will take a look at the off balance sheet accounting. So, off balance sheet can be abbreviated as OBS. So, let's go. So, very first on the menu is the method itself. So, this system will be the main tool when dealing with cost allocation. Okay, so what is cost allocation? Allocation means that you will attribute a certain cost to a certain entity, which we will call a cost center. What does attributing mean? You will say, okay, sales department, you have used like 60% of the total electricity over the period of 1 month. You will pay 60% of the costs. So using certain allocation keys, we will allocate or attribute these costs to certain places. Example over here, once again, of course, with the electricity, that's why we have the symbol in the right-hand corner. A company has paid 20,000 euros for electricity. Several departments used electricity because they all use it. And the thing is, the one who has used the most will be attributed the highest cost in the end. Okay, this is how we will deal with this problem. Now, in Dutch, we call this a kostenverdeelstaat or KVS. We just call it cost allocation in English. I've looked at several possibilities for like a better name, but the best thing I could find was cost allocation. So KVS or kostenverdeelstaat is this big schematic thing often used in Excel. And we will use it or see it rather on the next slide. So be prepared for that. And it will include the following things. So we will have the direct costs. They will come back, and these are like the easiest ones to link because we can directly link them to certain cost objects or cost categories. The indirect costs, these will be the problem because they are indirectly linked, which means they will be distributed to several cost centers using these allocation keys. Okay. Um, we will mainly use 4 different kinds of cost centers. We have the direct production costs, the indirect production costs, the administration, and administration deals with everything that is like office related, like accounting department stuff over here, dealing with invoices, with billing, will all be included within administration. And then we have commercial costs, so everything linked with the sales department selling the product in the end. Okay. Now, this is an example of a cost allocation schematic. So this is what we call in Dutch kostenverdeelstaat. What do we have? In green, my first row represents my 4 different cost centers. So we just saw those on the previous slide. So nothing too special over here. Then we see the cost categories. So these are numbered. The very first one is the raw material. And then we have maintenance and reparations. And we see all these different kinds of categories. The thing is, some of them are split up into 3 different parts, sometimes only 2 different parts. What do I mean with this? If you look at maintenance and reparations over here, we can see that it will be split up between production, administration, and sales. Why do we do this? Because several departments will make costs regarding maintenance and reparations. So we will spread out the cost using an allocation key. It could be the case that we say 60% will go to production, 20 will go to administration, and the final 20 will go to sales. The same thing goes for rent and heating. Um, the factory, we have to pay a rent for that. That's why it's linked with production. It could also be the case that we have an office building full of the offices, right? This will go to administration, and it might be the case that we have a special building containing everything regarding sales, and that's why sales will also be included. Now we have something like a direct cost over here regarding personnel. Only two options over here, but as you can see, when you see this little X, that means that we have attributed or allocated a cost to a certain cost center. Okay, now I will just give you an example. Like the very first one is raw materials. Raw materials is a very easy one because you can immediately link it with the production. It's very easy to know that raw materials will be only like included in the direct department because you will never link this to like a sales department. They have nothing to do with your raw materials. Same goes for administration. They have nothing to do with raw materials. So always place your raw materials, also your direct costs over here at the production level. These are your only two direct production costs. All the other ones will be different. Okay, so if we look at maintenance reparations, that will have to split up between production. That's why we have an X over here. It's indirect because this is linked to the machines, perhaps the maintenance of the machines. This is not directly linked with the product. Raw materials are directly linked with the product. Then we have a part administration and a part goes to sales. Commissions are wages paid to sales personnel. That's why the X will be placed for commercial costs over here. Packaging is also strictly a commercial cost. Rent and heating over here is different because once again we'll have to split up between three different centers. Okay. How do you study this? Well, you have to realize that you can study this or learn this by heart, but most of it is just like using your brain because most of these are quite easy and they will always return in future exercises. So if you understand this once, you will, in my opinion, um, will not forget how this works. Okay. So all the way at the bottom because this image was too big, so there is a part still connected to this image at the bottom. You can calculate the total amount of each cost center. So the very first one, as you can see, is about direct and indirect production costs. If we combine these two columns, we will finally get the production costs in total. So it's a summation of the very first two columns. Then the total amount of administration will come over here at administration costs. And then we have a final product over here, the commercial ones as well. Now it's very important to realize that I used several colors over here and they have a meaning, of course. So administration costs, we will always split these ones up. We will split them between a part will go to or will belong to production and a part will belong to commercial. So imagine that we have like this allocation key of 60% to production and 40% to commercial. Then we will take 60% of the administration costs. We will add them to the production costs over here, and this will give us the manufacturing cost of the product. Okay. If you add the remaining 40% of the administration costs to the commercial costs, you will get the total commercial cost of the product. Finally, if we add the manufacturing cost and the total commercial cost together, we get the final sale cost price or the final cost regarding to our product or selling cost. I often use total selling cost instead of final sale cost price because final selling cost sounds better in my opinion. Okay, the final selling cost is across all products. So if we divide this final thing by the production level, let's say 10,000 units were produced, then we get the cost per unit. And that's the thing we want in the end. So all of this work to find this final thing called the cost per unit. All right, it's a lot to take in at first, I know. I completely realize that. And that's why we have an example over here. So imagine that maintenance and reparations will be allocated to production, administration, and sales. Okay, so you want to split up the costs between three different cost centers. We will often use an allocation key linked to the surface that is used. So think about over here, imagine the total used space, the total company counts 4,000 square feet. And you know that production uses 2.5 thousand square feet, administration uses 1.2, and sales will use 300 square feet. Using this information, you will create your allocation key. I think you understand that if we look at production, 2.5 divided by 4, so the total amount over here, will give us a certain number, 62.5. You can do the exact same thing for administration and sales, and this will give you allocation keys calculated using the total space a certain department uses. So you have to calculate these on your own, or you have to be able to calculate these on your own. Sometimes these keys will just be given to you. Other times, like over here, you'll have to calculate it on your own. In the end, if the cost, the total maintenance cost is 15,000 euros, we will unleash the allocation keys on this number, and then we will find, for example, that production will be attributed 9,375 euros of the total cost. They use the most amount of space, that's why they will carry the biggest cost. Okay, excuse me, this is how an allocation key works. Okay, then we have three different exercises, and I'm thinking about splitting or like stopping the video right here so I can talk about these exercises in a separate video to keep the videos, well, short enough, okay? Otherwise, they're too lengthy, which might be annoying, I think. Okay, so if you have any questions, please watch the video about the exercises first, because I truly believe that once you watch the exercises, you will really understand how this works. All right. Something you really need to study, by the way, is this thing over here. This is actually formula on how to calculate certain things. You really have to know this. So please study this. And how this works, well, this will become clear during the exercises. Okay, I will stop right here. I have been filming for like 13 minutes right now. That's okay, I think. So until next video, and now we can deal with Boromir over here, Faramir, and Theoden. So all of them will have companies, and all of them will face, well, problems, and we will help them. All right, until then.